Hey, everybody, welcome back to Pro AV today. Excited to have this episode. If you followed along with this show at all, you've seen that we've had conversations about things like access control, physical security, command and control, mission critical. And that's a world that our industry continues to find themselves involved in, especially as we look to roll out technologies like better video integrated systems, better audio monitoring systems, even things like displays and command and control rooms. Our industry is continuing to cross paths with the access control physical security side of the world. So I wanted to bring on someone today to have that conversation, be able to ask some questions at a high level to hopefully dig in just a little bit deeper. And that's John Neyenhouse from Integrated Security and Communications. John, thanks so much for coming on today.
No, thanks, Ben. I'm glad to be here.
Look, John, you and I first had the chance to meet actually at a security-focused show where, ironically enough, it was this collision of the technology side and the physical side, right? You had everybody from the Boone Edams and the Garrett Metal Detectors, Evolved Technologies, and the folks like Securitas and Protos who were the staffing side. But then you also had the Barcos of the world. You had the View Walls, the RGB Spectrums, you have Hanwha, folks like that. And it's very obvious that technology plays an incredibly important role in the physical and access control side of the security world. As somebody who's been part of those system integration projects, really on both sides of the world, what are some of the things that you think are driving this change, and what are some of the ways that you've seen the industry evolve even over the last 5 to 10 years?
No, that's a great question. So I think the biggest thing is just the convergence of the different products together just helps to create a better solution for the customers, and just being able to tie in, say, the AV, the IT, the physical security, and what people traditionally think of from security, say the cameras and the door locks, but being able to tie that in as one system in with being able to work with the IT groups, the customers' IT departments, tie it in across their network, across their multiple locations, and then tie in the AV needs and pull it all together as one system, creates a better solution and just a better experience for the customers, and lends to that power of being able to pull from all the benefits of each of those individual systems.
Yeah, one of the things that really intrigued me is that the integrated security side of the world is far further ahead with the conversations around IT than we are on the traditional commercial AV side of the world, where we're still trying to find ways to talk to IT professionals and get them more familiar with AV technology on the network. Not to say it's not a problem on the integrated security side, but holistically, the security side of the world has had much better traction with looping in some of those IT professionals on the security integration side. Why is that, do you think?
Well, so we've kind of been forced into it. And I see the same thing happening on the AV space as well, but especially in the security world, as everything's moved to the IP realm, as we've moved away from analog cameras, moved into the IP camera space, and moved to the more IT-driven access control and the IT-centric systems on our side, we've forced to become, I guess, subject matter experts in that, or hire the teams that can talk to the IT departments. It's a lot less common now to see security driven by a retired police officer, and a lot of those responsibilities are moving towards the IT space. When you're driving 4K IP cameras across the network, you really need to know what you're doing on the networking and the IT side, so that you can actually drive that bandwidth and the throughput across the network that's needed for the IP side of what we're doing in the security space now. So if you can't talk to the IT guys, if you can't talk their language, they're going to find somebody else that can. And as I think on the AV side, some of that, I guess the AV systems have still been able to be siloed to some degree. If you're just working within a control room, or the AV space doesn't necessarily need to ride across the network as much. But when you're working in an enterprise space on the security side, all of those cameras need to be able to be viewable across multiple locations. They want them on their cell phones. They want to be able to look at their iPad in the morning to see if there's snow in their parking lot before they drive into the office. And security managers and the security departments are expecting that seamless integration across their networks and to work with their IT space.
Well, one of the things too that I've kind of noticed in that world is obviously the security side is driven a little bit more by mission critical or project critical technologies, whether it's installations and air traffic control centers, or PDs and police departments, or airports, things like that. Those conversations are a little bit more critical than a lot of our commercial installations, which is why naturally it feels like a lot of those I don't want to say fluffy conversations, right? They're not fluffy necessarily, but those conversations are far more essential on the security side of the world than they are the AV side. Do you think that that's one of the reasons that not only just with the IT side, but with the performance of AV, the longevity, product life cycles, things like that, tend to be a little bit better on the mission critical and core security side?
No, it definitely could be. And I haven't gotten as much experience on the AV side. Unfortunately, I have a good familiarity with it, but most of my experience has been on that, more on the security side throughout my time in the industry. So, but yeah, it is an interesting time, I think, in both of our spaces, and just trying to adapt to being in that IT centric realm, and trying to be able to, I guess, forecast out where our industries are going and how to stay relevant for the next couple of years. And it's something we struggle with all the time. And just with the DIY and being able to get better equipment just off the shelf at, or even just being able to buy security equipment, and I know it's the same on the AV side, but being able to buy stuff. A lot of customers feel like, hey, I can buy this at Best Buy or go to Amazon and get this. And it's getting harder and harder to fight that and to show the value. And you really have to become that, be able to show your value, to be able to integrate and tie multiple systems together, and show your experience level, and to prove to the customers why they're better going with you and your solution than just what they can get from just doing a web search or going with Ring or a Nest camera system, or, hey, I've got this in my garage at home, it works great, but that doesn't mean it's going to work well in for what they're trying to protect on the commercial side.
Agreed. And ironically enough, the residential technology world is one of the biggest informers and influencers on commercial installation and AV, and obviously the security side of the world too, because there's familiarity there. And there's I was at Cedia recently, which is a more residential technology focused show, and you see folks like Sonos, who have their roots primarily, or were initially primarily in the residential technology community, who are now having conversations and doing larger scale commercial installations because there's that familiarity. But what's interesting is that's actually changed the channel on both sides of the world, right? Not only from hey, what can my integrator do? My integrator, okay, they typically historically have installed, and they're my dealer, so they get me access to products that I might not have had historical access to. But now with your Amazons, with your B&Hs, with your Chegs, and in places like that, folks can buy these technologies, which has forced integrators into this kind of position of, okay, we need to double down on expertise, or we need to find ways to create value outside of our traditional workflow. What are some of the ways that you guys at ISC have seen some of that, and what are some of the ways that you're providing some of that value, even beyond just some of the traditional dealer installer relationships?
So, I mean, the big thing is just trying to make it easier for the customer and trying to be the easy button wherever we can be. If we can take that, if we can be that go-between between the typical security department and the IT groups, and be able to talk that language, and be able to get the security and IT to play nicely together, and kind of be that go-between, we've seen a lot of value and been able to drive a lot of business that way. When we can go into meetings and talk about the difference in networking technologies and what we really need for the camera systems to be able to work. And when the security guy turns and talks or looks at the IT guy, and the IT guy gives a thumbs up, or, yeah, these guys know what they're talking about, it really helps. And the IT guy is more comfortable. They know that they're not going to be getting a huge burden on their shoulders, that they're not going to have to do the heavy lifting. But the big thing is just also trying to figure out how to be that true integrator level, and tying multiple systems together, being able to tie the different technologies, and leveraging the use of the AI, the machine learning, the advances that are happening within our industries, and taking advantage of that converged type environment, and the environment, or the networking, being able to tie multiple systems together from multiple locations and give one seamless single pane of glass interface to a customer, it really helps set you apart from just some guy that's buying something off the shelf at B&H or Amazon can't do that. You really need to have that expertise and the forethought to be able to figure out how to explain to the customer how this is going to benefit them going forward, as opposed to, oh yeah, hey, you want a camera here? I bought this online. I'm just going to Velcro this to your wall, and when it dies, we'll just rip it off, put a new one up. There's a big difference between the two.
Well, and obviously there's network security risks and things like that. Normally, typically in the enterprise setting, hopefully folks are a little bit more educated than that. But, one of the places that folks might not always be educated on, and you mentioned it, is AI and machine learning, right? And that's one of the interesting ways that I think integrators can continue to serve the industry is by being subject matter experts. Thinking about AI machine learning, what are some of the ways that not only have you all seen it be rolled out in installations, but what are some of the places that you continue to see, hey, maybe this is going to continue to impact installations across all sorts of different verticals and applications?
Yeah, so it's an interesting space, and it's something that's evolving kind of every day. It's one of the first things I look at any of the big shows like GSX or IC West, is to see where the advancements are going and what's the latest on that side. Where we've seen the use of it the most so far is just ease of video searching and taking down the have somebody sit in front of, like, when you think about security surveillance in the old days, it was sitting in front of a VCR with the jog button and going forward, going back, and trying to oh wait, something's there, now it isn't, it's somewhere in this block. Whereas now on the video side, I can just type in a search and say girl with red shirt, and it'll stream back the video and show me just instances where there was a girl with a red shirt. I can type in Silverado and it'll show me just video clips that have a Chevy Silverado in the video image. So having the intelligence on the camera side and being able to leverage that analytic and the machine learning to reduce some of that time and show the power of what we can do on the video side, it's been huge. And just then using that for real-time alerts and analytics and being able to say, hey, look, if there's just the typical, say, line crossing or people counting, being able to take that a step further and show heat mapping and show different time frames. And we can apply that across multiple industries. Say on a supermarket, we can show what times of the day have the most people in line at a customer or waiting for a cashier, what the average wait time is, when they need to change their staffing, and being able to take that and apply that to other parts of their business so that the funding isn't necessarily coming from the security side, and being able to use those security devices for helping with staffing or marketing or business needs within the customer, or even then a tie into the AV side is then taking what's happening on the security side and tie it to the digital signage, so that when certain shoppers come in or when a certain employee comes in, you can change that digital signage to match what that person would want to see, or now the building's occupied to a certain level, let's change something to reflect that. And a big part of it is the data gathering, and just on the access control side, being able to use that machine learning and the big data side to say, okay, hey, this person always reads their card 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now they're coming in at 2 a.m. This is a different behavior than what they're normally doing. And maybe trip an alert that, wait a second, somebody's coming in at a time they're not normally here. Yes, they're allowed to be in the building, but let's pay a little more attention to them, or notify security that somebody's behavior has changed than from what they normally have. So being able to apply that computer machine learning piece across multiple different parts of our industry and figuring out where it fits or where it actually benefits customers is kind of the tricky part right now, but it is a very exciting time and really cool to see some of the potential that exists or is coming from those capabilities.
The security industry actually has been doing a great job of that for a long time. And I think that it's a great place for us, as I would say, as a commercial AV community, to continue to look. On that same token, one of the things that I found maybe a little bit frustrating, I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but at least intriguing to a strong degree, is that many AV manufacturers have tried to shoehorn products into the security industry maybe without fully understanding the needs of the technology, right? And I'm not even really necessarily just exclusively talking about mission critical, right? Because that's sort of its own animal. But you've got folks like Axis Technologies and Hanwha who have been making great security centric technology for the first time, or for a long time. But then you've got folks, maybe camera manufacturers, display manufacturers, audio speaker manufacturers that have found security as a new market. But what are some of the things, as an integrator, as somebody who has to be that last touch point before the end user, what do you wish that some of those manufacturers kind of knew ahead of time and didn't have to trial and error a bunch of these things by coming into the industry for the first time?
Geez, that's a tough one.
It's a heavy question. That's why I saved it for last.
I think a big part of it, and one of the simplest things, is just the ease of installation, the ease of serviceability, and just what happens. What do we need to know to be able to install it, and how easy is this going to be to deploy? Can we program stuff beforehand in our office and send it out? Can we preset to what we need on it? And one of the big things on the camera side has been that ability to do the remote aiming and focusing on the cameras, which has been huge in our space. Like, if we put a camera up 40 feet on a wall with a lift and that camera goes out of focus or wasn't focused right, or they want to change that viewing angle on it, it's worth that little bit of extra cost for that camera to be able to tweak the motor now on the lens to adjust the image or change the focusing on that remotely, instead of having to roll a truck and get back up or get another lift on site to get to that camera. So a lot of these devices aren't always, so like you said, the 24/7 reliability, or that enterprise grade, or the being able to have it running all the time, but also a lot of these are remote. So trying to fix things that can be done, or be able to fix it remotely or troubleshoot it without having to necessarily go out or get somebody physically on site, or even just the health monitoring remotely. Some of those features pay off dividends in the long run and really help with the longevity of the system, and just even the customer's view of the system. If you can fix it in a couple hours remotely without them having to wait 2 or 3 days for somebody to physically come out and physically swap it, it gives them a much better feel for their system as well.
Well, John, I appreciate you sharing that. I know that we are really just scratching the surface of some of these conversations. I feel like we could spend hours on each one of the questions kind of that I asked here, but I really appreciate you providing a lot of this context, right? And as I mentioned, a lot of us in the traditional commercial AV installation world, as we continue to grow and expand in verticals like education and healthcare and hospitality, security is one of those verticals, right? And there are the incumbents who have been doing a great job for a long time. But one of the great things about the commercial AV community kind of coming in is that it drives innovation across both sides of the world, right? At the end of the day, hopefully to best support our end users and our installation. So I'm looking forward to continuing to see how these industries continue to collaborate. Highly recommend, and John, I know you mentioned this earlier, shows like ISC West, GSX, even if you don't exhibit, attend, ask questions, meet some of the folks out there, because it'll give you a little bit better insight into some of the needs of the security world specifically versus maybe some of the traditional commercial installation. But John Neyenhouse, we appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your insight. I'm sure we'll have you back on soon, because like I said, we're just scratching the surface here.
I don't know I know we're running out of time today, but one thought I did have, I've been doing a lot of thought around the AV and security piece, and just one piece, and you kind of just spurred my memory on that by saying the healthcare, the schools. So a lot of it does depend on, I guess, the vertical or the end user. But one spot I really see that's kind of an underutilized piece between security and AV is just the use of the digital signage. Digital signage throughout a facility, say in a school, if we can take that digital signage and change that based on what the threat level or what's happening on the security side, or being able to repurpose a digital signage screen in a lobby of a building so that a first responder can see a floor plan of the building or pull up security camera feeds right from the lobby of a building without having to go to that security command center, or even in a classroom in a school, being able to change that smart board or what's on the digital sign or the bell system within the classroom to notify the teacher or the students in that room of, hey, there's an active shooter, or oh, there's a shelter in place, and being able to use that AV piece for more than just the signage or the standard communication, or take those signage and be able to use it as like a digital concierge. So when you have an unmanned lobby, or being able to use a digital signage to repurpose it as a receptionist after hours, and then say at that certain time when the person in the lobby, hey, meet me on the second floor, and then have that security operator jump in on the digital sign on the second floor lobby when they go up the elevator, and being able to tie that AV system in better with what the security needs. I think when we can get to that point and being able to tie those two together to create that seamless solution for the customers, I think it really benefits everybody.
I would agree. You start talking digital signage, see, now you're in my world. But John, I appreciate it so much, and even having the context and sharing things like you just mentioned, being able to tie all those systems together, and for proactive security, for wayfinding, for effective communication, I think is an incredible application for a lot of these technologies. And I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we're gonna find a way to get you back on the show for sure. But thanks so much for joining us today.
No, sounds great. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate the time.
And thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and watch next time for Pro AV Today.